Hey, Ma. Good, good. How about you? Good. Oh, look, I'm calling to say I can pay you back the money that you lent me, for the sports gambling. Nah, things just turned around for me all in 1 week and one night. All it took was this girl, Norma Dumont. She got a robbery, like the biggest fucking robbery you could ever imagine. So that happened. And then this guy, Isaac Dolgarian, he threw the fight, Ma. He took a fucking dive. And he lost by submission, too. So consider the debt paid, and things are really looking up for me now. Ma. All right. Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. Isaac Dolgarian, right? What the fuck? That's shady, and yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens with that. But I am here to break down UFC Fight Night 260, no, 70, ESPN 73, whatever. Who gives a fuck? Brown versus Bonfim. Actually, I think it might be Bonfim versus Brown. Let's get into it. Okay, opening up the card, we have Robert Valentin taking on Jackson McVey. My prediction here is Valentin wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by submission. I think when he wins anyway, it's most likely to happen by submission. But of course, on the flip side, Jackson McVey, he's got two losses, one professional, one amateur. And despite them both being the really good fighters, they're both by submission. They're both by armbar as well. But Valentin, I'll go with it being some sort of strangulation. But I do favor Valentin altogether. He's got a much deeper resume, which is why he's got a much shittier record, 10-6. But all six of his losses are to really good fighters. And even though he's been finished in 4 out of 6 of those fights, only one guy's really gone through him with ease, and that's Ateba Bega Gautier, who is visibly fucking dangerous. I mean, it's just obvious how dangerous that guy is physically. So there's a little forgiveness there. And it's not the best look at being in Valentin's last fight with him having been finished before a few times. But I still think at 30 years old, he's relatively healthy. And again, only one of those losses is a steamrolling. He's got 10 victories as well. 6 of them come by submission, 3 by TKO, and 1 by decision. Plus, he had those 2 good wins on the Ultimate Fighter, which don't help his official record here, but they're still valuable wins and they're recent. And I think Robert Valentin, even though he's on a 3-fight losing streak, I think he showed danger against Ryan Loder. Again, just turning it on a dime and snatching a choke on him. And against Torres Finney, I mean, how do you really look good against a fucking bowling ball? But he got a judge's nod on the scorecards, which is good enough. But in general, he doesn't have a lot of momentum since coming off of the Ultimate Fighter and losing in the finale to Ryan Loder. But I think he's got a much deeper resume, and I think he's going to next level Jackson McVey. Maybe not with as much ease as Bruno Ferreira did. And yeah, let me go to Jackson McVey here. He's got a record of 6-1. His one loss as a pro comes to Bruno Ferreira by submission back in July, but his one loss as an amateur is also by armbar. It's to Wesley Schultz, who's a good fighter, hovering around the UFC right now. Maybe we'll see him. But the point is, it's not a bad loss, especially as an amateur. But as a pro, his 6 wins are all steamrollings. He's won in round 1. His whole professional career, including the loss, takes place in round 1. So even though he's had some deeper fights as an amateur, and he's won down the stretch with triangle chokes, and even won by decision, all he's known recently is round 1. And I think Robert Valentin is accustomed to grueling, sloppy fights, going back to his loss to Ebo Aslan. That's one of his tough losses there. I believe that's the first time he was TKO'd. But he's the guy that I trust down the stretch. And I don't trust him too much. Like, I don't place him too highly in the UFC. But against Jackson McVey, who's got a lot of questions to answer, I I favor Robert Valentin here at 30 years old, and I still favor Robert Valentin. All right. At minus 160, where he's at now. I don't love it, but I played it, so I can't say I hate it. Robert Valentin by submission is the pick. By the way, I'll look for the under in this fight. Under, and especially under 2.5 rounds. If it's set at 1,000,000 to 1 or whatever, I'll still play it. But I think Robert Valentin should win here. Come on, what is this shit here? Are we fucking blowing men? What is this? I can't fucking X out of this shit? Is that what I look like? That's what I look like, huh? Next up, we have Daniel Marcos taking on Miles Johns. My prediction here is Marcos wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And I'm going to go with that being a split decision, just to emphasize that I think this will be a close fight. But I have to favor Marcos here. He just gets a slight edge. I don't think he's going to be able to out wrestle Miles Johns, but he can catch him off guard and take him down. Marcos has been mixing in takedowns, and he surprised me as of late. But in general, I think he's going to edge Miles Johns on the feet. Miles Johns is a problem in both wrestling and the striking for anybody, really, but he's a really neutralizing type of fighter. He doesn't often put his foot on the gas and really go for it. And I think here he's going to be a half step behind on the feet against Daniel Marcos. Miles Johns has really good counter shots, really good power too, punch for punch. But I think strike for strike, he's going to be losing on numbers to Daniel Marcos. And on the ground, look, Miles Johns could take down Daniel Marcos. Miles Johns has wrestling. He is the better wrestler here, but he's not the most trustworthy wrestler. I use that a lot when talking about wrestlers, and it's for cases like Miles Johns, where he's not the most trustworthy wrestler. Wrestling is fucking tiring. I just saw a quote from Justin Gaethje last week talking about how he couldn't even wrestle for 6 minutes or whatever without being dead tired. So he knew he couldn't do that in a fist fight. And Miles Johns, he seems to manage his energy pretty well. He's had collapses. He's slowed down. But in general, he's typically standing by the time the final bell rings. And I think here he's going to be standing, but he's going to be a half step behind. Daniel Marcos just lost for the first time against Montel Jackson. It was a close enough fight, but Montel definitely got the better of him. Marcos did take him down, which surprised me, but he didn't really do much with it. And aside from that, I thought he was a half step behind against Jackson throughout that fight. Miles Johns, he's got 4 losses. He lost recently to Jean Matsumoto and Felipe Lima, and I was picking him on both occasions. But yeah, Jean Matsumoto, the fight was close, but Miles Johns, who's never really wanted to put his foot on the gas, again, never really put a stamp on it, and he lost a decision. I feel like if he can't decisively out wrestle you, and if you're not, and if he's even close to being faster than you, or you're not too much faster than him, Miles Johns is cruising to a victory. But if it's close, he's worried about his cardio. He lets others kind of dictate things, and he uses his action in like a Tyron Woodley kind of way, scaring you off. Tyron Woodley would scare guys out of fighting him. Miles Johns is smaller and a lot more active than that, but I still think neutralizing is not going to be enough here against Daniel Marcos. Marcos could take down Johns, even though he's the lesser wrestler on paper. But on the feet, I think he outpoints Johns, just puts up better numbers, and without the right strike landing and changing the course of a round or a fight, I think the small moments win Marcos' fight. I haven't bet on him. He's minus 170, about the same odds as Robert Valentin. I'm going to wait for everything here. The point spread, the over, the horse shit. But this is a pretty close matchup on paper. Miles Johns is definitely within striking distance, and the odds represent that. Next up, we have Tecia Pennington taking on Denise Gomes. My prediction for this fight is Tecia Pennington wins, and I'm going to go with her winning by decision. I think this is going to be a close fight, but I favor Tecia based on the whole UFC levels thing, which is all bullshit. But it would make sense looking at their records and resumes for Tecia to win this fight. I think she's the best fighter Denise Gomes has fought. She's definitely not the biggest, strongest, or most imposing or most dangerous. But Tecia, when you put it all together, is the best fighter. And Tecia, despite being 36 years old, I still can't say she's not in her prime. I mean, she's on a nice 2-fight winning streak, but even when you look back at her 2-fight losing streak to Tabitha Ricci and Mackenzie Dern, she still looks as sharp as ever, Tecia, at 36 here, even though she fought those fights when she was probably 34, 35. But Denise Gomes, look, she's got all the upside on paper. She's bigger, she's longer, she's stronger, she's younger. She's 25 years old. So she is growing by leaps and bounds here. And she could show Tecia that next evolution instead of Tecia showing her that next level. But I know I have faith in Ticia's durability. She's tough as fuck. And I'm picking her to stand tall here against Denise Gomes in the first place, which is a pretty tall order because Denise Gomes is as dangerous as who else? Chad Mendez. But I still think Tecia will stand tall at a minimum, which is why I'll be looking for the point spread, but also give Denise Gomes a lot to worry about. I think Tecia has really sharp strikes. The strikes themselves are fast, but she's also the more agile fighter. I think she's got faster footwork, and I think she's going to be a problem for Denise Gomes that she hasn't had to deal with yet. Tecia is a really good striker, really fast, and she's pretty damn strong herself. I think Gomes is stronger. I know she's bigger, but I do think Tecia, if they're timed right, can take down Denise Gomes. Frankly, both girls can take down one another, and there are points to be scored down there. But Tecia, I have to favor her here, even though Denise Gomes has looked great. I think Ticia's still tough as fuck, still sharp as fuck, and I know she's got 15 minutes of cardio in her easily. That's never gone away. It's never going to go away. And I'm picking her to out hustle Denise Gomes here. She is plus 160. I've bet on her, but not with a lot of confidence. I'd rather play a much shittier line for the point spread or the over or whatever. I have to see everything all together. And even Tecia by decision would be the way to go, but I don't imagine that's much better. If she's plus 160, I bet that line would be plus 200. And I'd rather just play the money line and win if she gets a cut stoppage. But yeah, I'm going with Tecia Pennington for the 15th fucking time, and I got her winning by decision. Next up, we have Josh Hokit taking on Max Gimenis. My prediction here is Josh Hokit wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by TKO in round one. And I'll say it's hard to be confident about anything in this matchup because, first of all, both these guys are just getting going 6-0 and 6-1. But secondly, Max Gimenis, even though I'm familiar with him as a grappler and I've seen him grappling this week, or, footage of it anyway, I do think I don't have a grasp on him as an MMA fighter. Certainly, I know his strengths, and he's definitely got physical strength as well. But I don't know who he is as a fighter. I've seen minimal footage of him, and he was fighting someone who sucked. It might have even been me, and he just steamrolled the guy. And even the footage itself was kind of like shitty and grainy and shit. So there's just nothing to trust here. But he is the guy who lost. He's the guy with the one loss, and it was a TKO to this guy, David White, who doesn't seem to be an impressive fighter. And I haven't seen that. I haven't seen his wins or his one loss. I've seen a picture of the loss, and it looked like he was punched in the face. But that's it. But I've seen him grapple. I do have respect for his grappling. And knowing he's fighting a wrestler in Josh Hokit, if Max can get on top of him, then Josh is in big trouble. Big trouble. Max Gimenis, I mean, it's not like Josh is going to be able to go through him if Max is on his back. Max will keep himself safe, but he's not, he's a big, gigantic man. I'm not expecting a fucking triangle choke. I think if he's on his back, it's a disadvantage. And Josh Hokit, I think he's the more established fighter. He's beaten better guys that I've seen footage of it, which is pretty cool. And yeah, he's just a better athlete, the quicker man. I don't think Max is going to be able to find him easily on the feet. And this is just me kind of expecting Max to be a zombie, but again, I've just watched him grapple mostly. But I'm very confident Josh is going to be much quicker. And on the ground, I think he's going to be a lot quicker as well. Where Max can still sweep him, I'm sure, with a nice half guard or whatever. But I don't think Max is going to be seizing control of this fight with ease. I think he's going to have to get roughed up first and turn things around. They are heavyweights, so I suppose either guy can land a big punch and end everything, or at least change the course of the fight. But even that, I just think Josh Hokit is going to be much quicker. I don't have the most confidence in him. He's 6-0. He seems to have a lot of confidence in himself, and I love that he talks shit and all that. But I still want to see him tested more. He looked good against the guy Guilherme Uriel in his last fight, but it wasn't perfect. And I'm waiting to see him tested more, see if there's more faith or doubt coming from this guy here. But I do think he's going to be too quick for Max Gimenis, who, despite a proven skill set, I don't think he's got the athleticism to make it a thing here. And I think looking to his one loss being by TKO, and with Josh Hokit being a big, strong athlete with all finishes, I'm going with a TKO for Josh Hokit. Max is plus 310. Maybe I'd look to sprinkle some finish props or something on the other side. But in general, if I look for anything with substance, it'll be to cover my prediction on Josh Hokit winning. I'd take him winning by TKO, far and away over decision. So I'll wait to see everything. But right now, with him being a 4-1 favorite, I might just sit this one out. Okay, next up we have Jacqueline Cavalcanti versus Mayra Bueno Silva. My prediction here has to be Cavalcanti wins by decision. It seems most likely to me, despite the UFC levels and all that horseshit. But I do have to favor her. I think she's got a nice big frame. I think she's going to be difficult to bully. Although in round one, Mayra Bueno Silva, when she's firing on all cylinders, and I think she's better off putting her foot on the gas in round one, she's a force. And on the ground in general, Mayra Bueno Silva is a force like few others are. Jacqueline Cavalcanti's never been finished, let alone submitted, but Mayra Bueno Silva can definitely submit her. We've seen her get arms, get legs, get necks. That ninja choke on Holly Holm, which I probably shouldn't have brought up because it was overturned, I believe, due to a drug test failure. But that was still, in the moment, very impressive because Holly's a physical force in the clinch, and I thought she was shutting down the grappling of Mayra Bueno Silva. And deep into round two, against that physical force, she laced up a ninja choke and got it. And Holly, I know she's not a submission artist, but she's much more difficult to submit than your average boxer. But I'm still calling her a boxer. She's been an MMA fighter for like fucking 12 years already. But I do think Jacqueline Cavalcanti, after a potentially dangerous round one, I envision her just being the cleaner striker. She's comfortable on the back foot. And I think she's also going to be too difficult to bully more than once. I think Mayra can put it all together and maybe snatch one takedown. But in general, Cavalcanti's going to keep it on the feet and be a little cleaner. In general, though, Mayra Bueno Silva's got a lot of great traits. She's tough as all fuck. She's got a little more pop in her punches than meets the eye, and she is aggressive. And Cavalcanti has been rocked a few times in her loss to Martina Jindrova. It was in her third fight into a good fighter, but she was rocked. And against Nora Cornale. And she's been tested and passed every test for the most part, aside from the Jindrova fight. But I still think Mayra Bueno Silva she's in the realm of just Diego Sanchezing her way to a decision. Cavalcanti, she's not the most imposing fighter. She's not one to really put a stamp on it. But I still think Jacqueline Cavalcanti has to be favored here. She has to be my pick to win because I do have faith in general that she'll be able to keep it on the feet. And despite Mayra Bueno Silva having a bunch of great traits, Cavalcanti is the more comfortable one on the feet, in my opinion, especially down the stretch. She's been tested. She's been taken down. She's a difficult girl to take down, and a takedown will mean a lot more for Mayra Bueno Silva than it did for Julia Avila or whoever else, Nora Cornale. Bueno Silva, she's a monster on the ground. But I still think in general, Jacqueline Cavalcanti is going to be well equipped to thwart the grappling of Mayra Bueno Silva while it's a live threat, and then in general, kind of just outgrind her. Mayra Bueno Silva is plus 215. That's where the value's at, in my opinion. But I would probably look for her submission prop to maybe throw a sprinkle. And more comfortably than anything, I would probably bet on her point spread. Although I have to see the line. I think Mayra Bueno Silva's got all the finishing upside on her side, unless she gets cut again, like she did against Macy Chiasson. And I do think she's got enough skills and enough traits where I envision this being a close enough fight. I would say she wins a round if she loses. Not that I'm married to the 3.5 points. I would probably look to 5.5 or 7.5 or whatever. I have to fucking see what it is. Why am I doing these gay hand gestures? I see myself on the camera. I'm like, All right. On to the next one. Next up, we have Christian Quinonez versus Adrian Yanez. My prediction here is Adrian Yanez wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by knockout in round 3. And the basis for the prediction is, despite a recent skid where he has not looked great, he's gotten one win over Vinicius Salvador in his last 4 fights. I still think he's got a lot of talent. I know he's got incredible hands, really sharp and really fast. And I know Christian Quinonez is vulnerable, even though I should address the vulnerabilities of Adrian Yanez as well. I'll say this, so let me talk about Yanez first. He's got 2 TKO losses, and they're both in this recent skid. But his chins only failed him once. That was against Rob Font. Sure, we've seen him cracked in other fights, but Rob Font is incredibly dangerous, and he's the one guy to go through him there. And then the other TKO loss is to Jonathan Martinez, who's got leg kicks like no one else, even Christian Quinonez, anybody else. Jonathan Martinez is sharp as fuck there, and Adrian Yanez was chopped down. So yeah, he's lost twice by TKO, but he's still 31 years old. He's battle tested, and I have more faith in his durability than I do in the durability of Christian. Christian's got a record of 18-5. He's lost twice by TKO and 3 times by submission. And I haven't seen all of them, but the majority of them take place in round 3. And even though Adrian Yanez, despite having 2 submissions, he's not the most likely guy to make good on the submission weakness of Quinonez, but I'm picking him to make good on the overall round 3 weakness of Quinonez and be too much for him down the stretch with his hands. But yeah, Quinonez, he's lost 3 times in round 3, and that includes his last fight against Raoni Barcelos. But Raoni is an excellent fighter, and Christian showed how his skills match up against Raoni there, and he was doing really well. He was definitely in that fight. He was leading the dance, but he couldn't maintain, and Barcelos ended up getting him. All 3 of his submission losses are by rear naked choke. He also lost to Kwang Ho Kang, who had him hurt. Kwang Ho Kang had him halfway out with a TKO, but ended up getting the rear naked choke. And then his loss before that was to Victor Madrigal, another rear naked choke in round 3. And that was a fun fight. He was doing well there too. And I don't know how the fuck he didn't get his arm broken in that fight. Just incredible submission defense altogether. But he still got submitted in the end in round 3. Victor was a little too much for him. His two TKO losses, I've seen one of them. I'd attribute it largely to a body shot, but there was a head kick and other shit going on there. But yeah, I think the body shot got the ball rolling. And his first loss, it was over a decade ago, so it's least important, least relevant. But it was a third round loss, TKO, inside of a minute in round 3, obviously. So stands the reason it was probably on the feet in one way or another. But he's got a bunch of talent. He showed it in his loss to Raoni Barcelos. He got that nice win over Khalid Taha. And his win on the Contender Series has aged pretty well, despite Long Zhao not having a lot of success. I still think he's a solid UFC level fighter. He's proven that to me anyway. And Christian Quinonez beat him, even though Long Zhao, I thought, came alive in the end. And I have to mention, he's got a great win over Vinicius Oliveira, Loke Dog. It's a doctor stoppage, so it's not the cleanest finish, but he was halfway there, in my opinion, and he was just bringing a fucking tornado for that dude. And that's a win that aged well, even with doctor stoppage. So I think here, Christian Quinonez is the more likely wrestler between the two. He's a guy that's shown he can mix it up. And again, with success against Raoni Barcelos, who's a wrestler first and foremost. And I think he's definitely the more likely guy to score points there. But I'm thinking Adrian Yanez, even if he concedes a takedown or two, will in general keep this one standing and in general outlast Christian Quinonez. And I've got his striking, his boxing being too much and getting the finish. Round 3 finishes the play. I will look to play that prop. And Adrian Yanez, whose line is now minus 218, I might have to bet on. Next up, we have Jamal Emmers versus Haider Amil. My prediction here is Jamal Emmers wins. And I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And I'm not too confident in the prediction, especially the method of victory, but I do overall favor Jamal Emmers. Haider Amil has lost once now, and it was in his last fight earlier this year, back in June, not even too long ago, and he was knocked out. Knocked out with a knee and elbows against Jose Delgado, who still has a lot of momentum despite his recent loss. But Jamal Emmers, he's definitely got good pop in his punches. He's got height and reach, and there's a chance he just cashes in on that 35-year-old chin. I guess Jamal Emmers' chin is actually the 36-year-old chin. He's 36. And Jamal Emmers' chin has cost him more fights, but of course, he's got the much longer, deeper resume. And as for the technical fight, without talking about chins and harping on knockouts, I think Jamal Emmers' wrestling could be the difference here. I know Haider Amil is going to be trying to go through him like Nate Landwehr did. That's Haider's style anyway. And I do think if Haider wins, knockout comes before anything else, even though we've seen him grit his way to decisions. But for Jamal Emmers, I think it could be a decision as well as knockout. Jamal Emmers got good, nice, long, straight punches, but he's also had really good wrestling that's won him fights and should have won him other fights, like against Jack Jenkins. And I think it could come alive here. It hasn't had a chance to hit the surface in a while for Jamal Emmers because it's been, he's had some short fights as of late and fights where it would behoove him to keep it standing, like against Gabriel Miranda. But I think here against Haider Amil, it would behoove him to mix it up, to slow down Haider Amil. And I think Jamal Emmers, there's doubt creeping in, but I still think he's in pretty good shape at 36 years old, and he's got skills in every direction, and I've got him outpointing Haider Amil. He's 21 and 8, Jamal Emmers. He's been TKO'd 3 times. Knocked out really against Nate Landwehr and also knocked out against Julian Erosa, my second favorite featherweight. And I think also against Thiago Moises. That's right. Thiago Moises drowned him and got him out of there in round 5 in the RFA. But those are all really good fighters, and they've been losses that are spread out. But still, with all this compounded with his age, 36 years old, yeah, there's definitely doubt on the side of Jamal Emmers. And beating Gabriel Miranda, he looked great, but that's not the biggest test overall, and it's certainly not the biggest test for one's chin. But yeah, Hyder Amil, I think he's a fucking tank. I think he's going to go forward and just try to hunt that chin of Jamal Emmers. And I think Jamal Emmers is going to be trying to slow him down and keep it at range, keep it about length. And I've got Jamal Emmers using all his skills to win this fight. The odds are pretty close. It's toss up odds. Jamal Emmers is a slight underdog. And yeah, that's good enough for me. Up next, we have Marco Tulio versus Christian Leroy Duncan. My prediction for this fight is Christian Leroy Duncan wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by knockout in round two. Let me say, regardless of what happens, I think this fight is going to be fucking awesome. Although, I think Marco Tulio is perhaps more likely to mix in takedowns and slow this fight down, and it might be smart of him to try to do that. Historically, that's been the way to beat Christian Leroy Duncan. But I still think this is going to be a really fun striking fight. I expect spins from both guys. They're both really dynamic and creative. But I think Christian Leroy Duncan is tough as all living fuck. And I think he's dangerous as all living fuck. He's got a bit of height and reach here. And I think he's going to put away Marco Tulio, show him that next level on the feet. Christian Leroy Duncan, yeah, he's durable, never been finished as a pro or as an amateur. And if you survive a losing fight against Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, you're pretty damn tough. And of course, as he showed us in his last fight against Eric Anders with that beautiful spinning back elbow, he's dangerous and creative as fuck. And that's not his first spinning finish either. This is definitely going to be a fun fight. But I do think on the feet, Christian Leroy Duncan is going to be sharper and faster than most of the guys Marco Tulio has fought. And I think what's coming back at him is going to be too dangerous for Marco to really enter the flow state like he seems to be in every single fight he's had. And I should mention Marco's got one loss. It was 7 years ago, but he was knocked out. So that's how his one loss looks. And he's looked great since arriving on the UFC scene, the UFC level. That goes back to his first Contender Series win over Yusri Bulgari, who we saw get a nice win over Azamat Bakoyev 2 weeks ago. And that was a win where he did mix in grappling. He can mix in grappling, and he's done it on in other fights on the regional scene. He can mix it up. It's not all just striking and knockouts with him, but still, I think that was a really underdeveloped kickboxer, especially at that time, 2 years ago. And I think Christian Leroy Duncan has gone through all these growing pains as a fighter. I mean, he's got however many amateur losses, all of which are by decision, most of which are due to wrestling, purely wrestling. And he's been able to thrive as a professional, where his only two losses are in the UFC. He was neutralized, I want to say, on the feet against Armin Petrosian, who was just a little more basic for him, and the basic shit won him that fight. And he was a little more roughed up against RoboCop. But that's RoboCop, and again, surviving that fight only shows how fucking tough this guy is. So yeah, between his toughness, his experience, he's got dynamic finishes down the stretch, spinning shit over great fighters, flying shit. I'm taking Christian Leroy Duncan to slow down Marco Tulio, put some fear into him, and eventually knock him out. Christian Leroy Duncan, I have bet on him. He's plus 160. The money line's good for me right there, but I will look for the finish prop as well. I think he's a fucking really dangerous guy, potently dangerous, just like Marco Tulio. And I think knockout is always most likely for either guy in victory, but certainly for Christian in this one. Up next, we have Uros Medic versus Muslim Salikov. My prediction here is Muslim Salikov wins. And I'm going to go with him winning by third round spinning wheel kick, because that sure sounds pretty fucking dramatic. That is my official prediction. I'll go with a TKO. I mean, it can happen with punches. But I wouldn't be surprised, of course, if he won a decision. I think this is a really close matchup between these two. They're strikers first and foremost, and if either guy wants to mix in some grappling, would be really smart. But even though Muslim Salikov is 41 years old, he still, in general, looks really good. I know that Ponzinibbio fight was pretty damn close, but he's looked really good as of late and not too vulnerable. I remember writing his obituary after some tough losses, especially the knockout to Randy Brown and a recent loss before that to Li Jingliang. But he's looked tough, and he certainly looked dangerous. I mean, closing the show with the spinning wheel kick over Song Kanan, and knocking out Carlos Leal Miranda with that beautiful punch in his last fight. I like Muslim Salikov right here in this spot. And Uros Medic, even though he's probably overall got the better bill of health, considering he's 32 years old, he's still been rocked before himself. He was knocked out against Punahale Soriano with that big fucking overhand in 30 seconds. He was clipped in his win against Gilbert Urbina, even though he knocked him out 10 seconds later. And he was roughed up and knocked around against Matthew Semmelsberger, nearly knocked out against Jalen Turner. That was halfway to a TKO loss, probably like 3/4 of the way. So, yeah, he's not without his doubt, without my doubt. He's not without his vulnerability. And Muslim Salikov has shown he's still pretty damn dangerous. And as for the technical battle, I think Uros Medic is faster, but I think Muslim Salikov is a little stronger. And I think nobody's more comfortable than fighting 15 minutes on the feet in the UFC than Muslim Salikov. Even at 41 years old, he's still a viable fighter there. And I think in general, even though he's a little slower than Uros Medic, he's still the greater force in there. I think his strikes mean more. He's got more potential for big moments. And again, if somebody wants to mix in a little grappling, Muslim Salikov is the stronger physical man in tight, I believe. So I'm taking Muslim Salikov to win. I going to go with him winning by round 3, TKO, spinning wheel kick. And if you have a spinning wheel kick prop available, you may as well put a few pennies on it. But in general, I just like him to win, and his money line's got my play at plus 150. Next up, we have Ricky Simón versus Raoni Barcelos. This is an awesome fight. My prediction here is Raoni Barcelos wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. I say that despite him being 38 years old. But I think Raoni Barcelos has been looking good as of late, and Ricky Simón has as well. I mean, both guys have really come alive after some tough losses. But I've got Raoni Barcelos winning by having the sharper hands. I still have faith in his durability, even though he's 38 years old and he was knocked out against Umar Nurmagomedov. But I still have faith in him, and I definitely have faith in his hands and his wrestling. Here, both guys are great wrestle boxers. I think Raoni has faster hands. Ricky has more pop in his punches. And I think Ricky is the quicker guy with his shots, but I think Raoni Barcelos will be able to take away those takedowns from Ricky. And I think Raoni will be able to set up trickier takedowns. I've got him winning whatever points there are to be won there with his wrestling. And on the ground, jiu-jitsu wise, neither guy is known as the biggest submission threat, but they're both capable, and they've both shown it in the UFC. But I would think Raoni Barcelos would get the first submission between the two, and I'd pick it to be by round 3 rear naked choke, of course. But I do think this one goes the distance. I think it's going to be a grind, a really close fight. But Raoni Barcelos I favor because I think he's got sharper hands, good durability for a 38-year-old. And I also think I trust him a little more in round 3. Not that Ricky Simón is somebody who's going to fall apart, but I think Raoni Barcelos is the better man down the stretch. I know Ricky's probably fought better competition, but I still expect Raoni to outlast him. Ricky was outlasted against Cameron Smotherman in his last fight. And against Mario Batista, certainly he was spamming takedowns. And Vinicius Oliveira, who As I mentioned earlier, I believe he outlasts everybody these days. But I still think Raoni, despite being 38 years old, he's the more reliable guy in round 3. I would have him certainly his hands coming alive and dictating the fight on the feet, and I would have him being the guy to hit that takedown when it really counts. So yeah, it's a close fight, and I've got Raoni Barcelos winning. I've got him winning by decision. He's a plus 130 underdog, and wow, the over under has just dropped. The over is set at minus 215, and I would say there's definitely value on that. And I should mention, Ricky Simone has been TKO'd twice, once in round 5 against Song Yadong. That was a more thorough beatdown, and once in a shaky round 1 finish against Uriah Faber in his big comeback fight, which was fucking awesome despite the shakiness. I bring that up just so you know I know that shit, despite me having forgotten to tell you. Next up, we have Ismael Bonfim versus Chris Padilla. My prediction for this fight is Ismael Bonfim wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. I think Ismael Bonfim is still a really talented fighter, but no doubt the shine has worn off since he's lost twice in the UFC now. Benoit Saint-Denis went through him and face cranked him, got him out of there for the 4th time in 4 losses by submission, even though that was the first loss in over a decade or close to a decade for Ismael Bonfim, and to a really fucking good guy in Benoit Saint-Denis. But in his last fight, after a bounce-back win over Vince Pichel, he lost to Nazim Sadikov. It was a doctor stoppage, but he was definitely roughed up there as well. Doesn't go down as a strike against his chin, but there was something there. But here, I think he's going to be too sharp for Chris Padilla. I think his hands are going to carry him to a victory in this fight. And of course, if they mix it up on the ground, Chris Padilla, he's already shown his rear naked choke in the UFC over James Yantop. Maybe not the best submission defense, but he's shown he can get the rear naked, and that is the primary path to victory over Ismael Bonfim. And Chris Padilla showed in that fight against James Yantop that he could get it suddenly. And I think he might need to do it that way against Bonfim, because I think Bonfim's going to make it pretty difficult for him to do it thoroughly. Bonfim, he's a solid, strong athlete. Again, the only guy to get him in the last however many years on the ground was Benoit Saint-Denis, who's built like a fucking welterweight. So, yeah, I think Chris Padilla is going to be up against it on the feet against Bonfim. Padilla's been knocked out himself against Jason Gonzalez. That was many years ago, though. In general, he's looked pretty fucking tough. He was also submitted by rear naked chokes himself in 2 consecutive fights, the first of which was to Gabe Green, who is a really underrated, overlooked UFC fighter these days. But yeah, I think Chris Padilla is a well-rounded guy. He's just not on the level of Ismael Bonfim. I think Bonfim's run into some really good fighters as of late, but here he's going to remind us of his talent and step over Chris Padilla. Going to go with it happening by decision, but as he showed against Terrence McKinney, despite that being Terrence McKinney's chin, he's really fucking dangerous. And I think in general, whether it's by finish or decision, he wins this fight. And that's why, since he's come down inside 2-1 odds, I have played him. Ismael Bonfim at minus 198. Didn't take much for me. Next up, we have Joseph Morales versus Matt Schnell. My prediction here for this fight is Joseph Morales wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And I'm not too confident in the prediction, or certainly the method of victory. Matt Schnell's a pretty vulnerable guy. If he loses, it's typically by finish. But here, I think this fight is closer than meets the eye. First of all, Matt Schnell, I should address his vulnerabilities. His chin is always the biggest concern. And here, I can't say it's not an issue. It's not a threat, because Joseph Morales, he can definitely put him away, but he's not as likely to put him away as many of Matt Schnell's other opponents. Morales has 2 TKO victories as a pro, One of them I wasn't able to see, but I was able to see him TKO that guy as an amateur, I believe, in round 5 or whatever. No, round 3 on the ground. But his other one as a pro is a second round knockout or TKO over Sean Santella. He cracked him with a big overhand and put him away on the ground. So yeah, he's not known for his striking, but it's happened before, and it could certainly happen with Matt Schnell. But Matt Schnell, I want to say his chin is in a safer place than in most fights here. And again, I saw Joseph Morales attacking fucking Idris Elba in his last fight, or whatever his name is, Alibi. And yeah, he may not be Mr. Knockout, but he's definitely got good hands. And on the ground, Matt Schnell is also vulnerable. He's vulnerable to the guillotine, really. He's been tapped 4 times if you include his exhibition fight against Tim Elliott, and all 4 are guillotines or ninja chokes. 3 guillotines and 1 ninja choke. Joseph Morales doesn't have one of those on his record. He trains with Team Alpha Male. Historically, that's the place you want to go if you want to sharpen your guillotine choke. So I'm assuming he does have one, and it's sharper than meets the eye. Because again, what's meeting the eye, what's hit the surface, is nothing. His wins are by triangle choke and rear naked choke. Matt Schnell, he's got good jiu-jitsu. He's also a great triangle guy himself, Matt Schnell. Really good. And I think here, if in general his chin and his neck aren't at such a big risk, Matt Schnell is very much in this fight. On the feet, Matt Schnell is really technical. He's sharp. He's vulnerable, yes, but still he can strike, and he's comfortable on the back foot. He keeps a tight stance. He's not best equipped to hit takedowns just because of how he positions himself standing. He's like leaning back and whatever. But I don't think he has a lot of faith in his takedown prowess to begin with. And that's really the crux of the matter when it comes to my prediction. I just feel like generally, if this fight, if neither guy's able to plug themselves into the other's weaknesses, I expect this to go the distance, and I favor the guy that I expect to win the wrestling battle, and that would be Joseph Morales. But Matt Schnell, I've always been impressed with his technique. He's got an incredible guard, and he's got really good stand-up, but the vulnerabilities. So overall, I have to favor Morales. I'd favor him to win the decision. I'd favor him to win the knockout, and I'd favor him to win the submission. But I do think this is a very winnable fight for Matt Schnell. If he keeps himself safe, he's a little longer. I think he can work well on the back foot and strike well with Joseph Morales. And it's not like he doesn't have submissions and all kinds of skills to threaten Joseph with as well. So closer fight that meets the eye, but my prediction is Joseph Morales. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure the top prediction will be he wins by submission, and it wouldn't surprise me if he won by submission. But I'm going to take Matt Schnell to survive and make it to the final bell. And as for the bet, I haven't bet on Joseph Morales. He is close to a 3-1 favorite, minus 280 or thereabout. And the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, close enough odds. I really could, I could never trust anything with Matt Schnell. Certainly if I'm picking decision. It's not like I could say, bet on the over. Don't bet on the over. So in general, I might be sitting this one out altogether. And in the main event, we have Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. My prediction here is Randy Brown wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by a TKO in round 3. And the basis for the prediction, I guess a lot of it comes from the Nicholas Dalby loss, the one loss for Gabriel Bonfim. But I'm aware that he's looked good generally since then. Bonfim is 3-0 since he collapsed in round 2 against Nicholas Dalby. And all 3 victories are longer fights. He got Chaos Williams out of there with an anaconda choke, or a Darce choke actually, in the 10th minute of the fight, 9 minutes and 58 seconds into the fight, which is a great look. And he also beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Angelosa by decision. Wonderboy got robbed. He got fucking robbed. But still, for a guy whose big question is cardio, I thought Gabriel Bonfim was pushing through fatigue in that fight and relentlessly pursuing the grappling and trying to win that fight and put it into his realm. And yeah, even though I thought Wonder Boy got the better of him, Bonfim still showed toughness and a lot of great traits. And maybe not tip-top shape fucking Kobe Covington cardio, but better cardio than we'd seen in that loss to Dalby. But still, I'm picking Brown to win, and picking Brown to win with 5 rounds with which to work. I've got to have him winning by TKO. It just makes more sense to me than decision. But I think Randy's going to be a difficult guy to go through early. Bonfim's got excellent hands. His boxing is phenomenal, and his submission game is even better. And I think his submission game, particularly, is better than his overall grappling. He's just a fucking killer. So Randy, he's going to have to make it difficult for Bonfim to find his neck or his chin. And on the outside, he's got substantial reach. And on the inside, even though he's a longer, taller guy, he can definitely wrestle and he can definitely grapple. And he's got good athleticism. And I think he prolongs this fight at range and keeping Bonfim off of him. And frankly, if Bonfim gets a hold of him and doesn't go through him on the ground, I think it'll only expedite the finish for Randy after that. But I still think Randy slows down Bonfim, starts landing better shots as Bonfim gets tired, and I've got him putting him away in round 3, or whatever the fuck it is I said. But yeah, let me talk about Brown, the doubt with him now. He's got 6 losses, and of course, because he's been fighting the UFC for over a decade, we've seen him hurt, we've seen him submitted, we've seen a lot of shit go wrong for Randy Brown. He was knocked silly and then submitted against Jack Della Maddalena. And he was also submitted against Michael Graves, the biggest what if in UFC history. One of them. I guess the biggest what if is Philip Miller. Look him up. But those guys got him with submissions. And again, Jack Della Maddalena, the fucking champion of the world, had him half out before that anyway. So it's not the biggest stain for his submission defense. But still, he has been tapped, and Gabriel Bonfim can tap anybody. And Randy Brown's also been knocked out. I mentioned he was knocked silly against Jack Della Maddalena, but he was knocked out against Vicente Luque and Nico Price, famously, with the fucking weirdest knockout ever. So yeah, there's a little bit of doubt with Randy Brown, and he is now closer to 40 than he is to 30. So there's that. But with the way he's looked as of late, both his skills, his speed, and his durability. Again, Jack's the only guy to really hurt him badly in however many fights. I think Randy Brown is equipped to handle Gabriel Bonfim. I think he's going to be too good of a fighter and too well-rounded for Gabriel Bonfim. I think Bonfim will have trouble corralling him, trouble going through him on the ground, and his boxing will start off strong but only get weaker. And I've got Randy Brown outlasting him and closing the show. Right now, they do have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, and it's pretty much a toss-up. I couldn't tell you which way to go on that. I have no interest. But Randy Brown at plus 154, I like that. I favor him getting a TKO, but certainly if somebody was to win a decision, I'd pick it to be Randy Brown. And yeah, I'm comfortable with this money line. And that is it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're going to bet on Gabriel Bonfim, submission's the way to go. I think I said that. I like to cover both sides. But yeah, Gabriel Bonfim, even if his boxing is getting the ball rolling, I still picture it ending in submission. And for him to get substantial control over Randy Brown for the course of 25 minutes and not get a finish doesn't seem as likely to me either. So submission's the way to go with him. Now I can do it all over again. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit, and check out my other videos, which are also long-winded.